morning, folks. Welcome to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, your host, and we're in luck because we're at the Agronomy Farm on the K-State campus, and it is the Sorghum Field Day here on the farm. We at K-State do more than just wheat research. We do lots of things, but sorghum is one of them, and I think you're going to want to come back here in a second and listen to our researchers talk about the various aspects of grain sorghum production. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsor.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and our first guest this morning at the Agronomy Sorghum Field Day is Dr. Ignacio Ciampetti. He's our cropping systems researcher and extension specialist. Ignacio, we're talking about sorghum, obviously, at the Sorghum Field Day. Your presentation is about production practices. Mm-hmm. So, kind of tell us what you've been doing the last couple of years on sorghum.
Yeah. Thanks for the invitation. To speak about this. One of the things that we have been doing in the last years, one of the main questions that we get from farmers is like, what are the main practices that we can implement in the field in order to increase yields? That's the main question.
Right.
And then we are trying very different factors. We have last 2 years we are doing experiments across the state. We have experiments in Hutchinson, Belleville, Ottawa, Western Kansas, and the goal is to make sure that we try different combinations of practices.
Right. Since in eastern Kansas, for example, the population will be higher than western,
exactly.
And various things like that. But I know you're doing more than the plant populations.
We are testing plant population. We are testing row spacing. There are people asking questions about what happens when you do 15s versus 30-inch. Mm-hmm. We are testing fungicide, insecticide applications.
Fungicide and insecticides, right?
Yeah. We are testing, different nutrient combinations when people is taking care of a macronutrient. Mm-hmm. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and also micronutrients. So we are
the micronutrients.
Yeah, we are kind of testing a different kind of combinations, and then the goal of the experiment is trying to come up with some kind of standard practices that we can, at least share with our farmers in different areas. Mm-hmm. And then I think that we are very excited because we are getting to the end of the final second year. Mm-hmm. We will be continuing this at least for a last year, but one of the things that we are looking with the research is always going to the same point. Mm-hmm. Looking on the eastern side, when we are having yields that are above 100 bushels, sometimes not really so much heat as a main factor that is stressing the crop.
You're saying heat is the main factor?
Heat is one of the main factors that's stressing the crop.
Okay.
When you're going to eastern Kansas, we are seeing, for example, that we can increase population,
sure.
We can narrow rows, and then if you do a very good application of balanced application of macro and micronutrients, then you get sometimes benefits as compared with the standard practice, nothing else. Okay. You get around 10 to 20 bushels.
Okay.
Only on those practices. Okay. When you go to central and the western side, those combinations sometimes they don't work that well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The higher plant populations in the western part, not so good.
And you see why. When you go to the western side, sometimes we are looking at yields that they are probably even lower, and we are seeing some stress combination, heat and drought is really one of the big factors when you move to central western side, not in the dryland situations.
Right.
So in those situations you are seeing that narrow rows, it might be a good factor, but increasing population is a factor that, it's not really adding more benefit. One of the things that we are seeing with the narrow rows, this year we are seeing some benefits, and we have one study that
we had more rain this year.
This year is very peculiar. We have more rain, and another thing that you are seeing is very wet conditions early season. The crop was kind of standing, so narrow rows was really helping to cover the canopy.
Don't go away, Ignacio. We got to take a break, folks. Don't go away. Grab a cup of coffee. Come on back, and we'll hear from Ignacio again. See you in a second.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Ignacio, I had to cut you off there for the station break, but let's continue what you were talking about with the narrow rows and the moisture.
Well, this year, as you mentioned before, wet conditions, narrow rows is making a big benefit. The plants were not really moving forward that quickly as compared with last year because it was too wet. So narrow rows, this year are really showing that we can cover the canopy. We are seeing a lot of situations that when you're walking in the field, you still can see the soil.
Right.
And that is bad.
Right.
More in this year that we have the rain. The main factor that was limiting at some point was the interception of light, increasing biomass, increasing yields.
Okay.
In some scenarios, we see that row spacing is not really good.
Right.
We know that.
No, not good is not the right word. No advantage.
No advantage. Yeah, in the point of saying if you narrow rows and if you don't have the rain, that is probably the opposite.
Yeah. Right. Okay. What about out west? Way out west.
Way out west, we are seeing, for example, narrow rows is not really a good benefit. We are seeing that we are not limiting by light.
Right.
Our main limiting factor is water.
What about insecticides and fungicides on sorghum?
That's an excellent question. This year we didn't, and last year we didn't have much pressure on our insects or,
disease.
Or disease.
Last year.
This year for sure we have more. We still didn't see much benefits last year when you compare, most of the locations. Sometimes people tend to use, fungicides as a kind of a stay green effect.
A prophylactic to stay green,
Yeah, the plant will remain green. We didn't see so much benefits on that specific point. So this year we are expecting to harvest a couple of locations. I'm hoping to see more benefits from an insect side.
Right. Okay. What else I know you're doing some other things with on-farm or with farmers, so kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's probably the most exciting part of my job. Really, the one that I really enjoy most of the days is really working with farmers and then going with them and taking a look to different plots. So we are working at least with 20 farmers around the state and putting plots. And what we do, we are testing very simple things. On sorghum, we have a couple of studies in central and western Kansas, and we are testing basically plant population.
Right.
It's very interesting because sometimes we have discussions even with colleagues that they say, well, we already know about these.
Right.
Set a stone, we know what are the numbers. And then you start to find that each individual farm is different.
Right.
When you go to a farmer and you put those trials, they start to find that the population change.
Right.
And the ultimate population will change with the year,
exactly,
with the location.
Exactly.
So it's good to work with farmers and they can see the complexity.
Right.
So they can feel what we are dealing every day when we are working on.
Well, one good thing about sorghum is if you do plant at a lower population, it can tiller.
Exactly.
You don't want that in corn, obviously, but
exactly.
in sorghum, it can tiller.
But one of the things that we found last year, for example, there are hybrid differences.
Oh, yeah.
So one farmer, and this was a very short story, one farmer was picking a hybrid that was tillering not much. When he put it in low population, and we did this trial in different population, he found out that the response was very similar to corn.
Right. Ignacio, we got to stop now. Thank you for taking time out to talk with us.
And always.
We'll see you down the road.
Yeah.
Folks, we got to take a station break, so come on back after that and we'll start the show again.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and our next guest is Dr. Jeffrey Morris. And Jeff, he's our sorghum geneticist, and thanks for being on the show this morning. We got a beautiful day for the field day, and you've got some strange looking sorghums in your hand here. That's not the kind that we normally grow. You know, we've been growing sorghums in Kansas for 150 years basically, but you've got some weird stuff here. So kind of tell us the background of sorghum, Jeff, if you will.
Well, sorghum is one of the most diverse crops in the entire world. And here at K-State, we can take advantage of that diversity of sorghum from all around the world to develop the next sorghums for Kansas farmers. This is an example of one of those strange sorghums. This one's from Somalia, one of the hottest places in the world. So this guy is adapted to living in 120 degrees in the shade. So we're hoping that this one and some of these...
that should fit then.
Yeah, the other ones here could be our next source of heat tolerance, drought tolerance, or cold tolerance.
Okay, so kind of go through. I mean, this is a sorghum, right? I mean, it's just like our current day sorghums, but what makes this one different than, say, our current sorghums that we're growing now? Is this a variety, or is this a hybrid?
So this is basically a farmer variety from Somalia. Someone maybe 50 or 100 years ago went to a village in Somalia and collected it. It turns out this one is actually a pretty close cousin to the Milos that were grown 7,500 years ago in Kansas.
Okay.
And trapped in this plant and its cousins are genes that confer tolerance to cold, to drought and to heat. And what we do in the genetics program is to find those genes that make it more able to deal with stressful conditions, and then we provide genetic markers that can help the breeding program get that into the elite parental lines.
Right, into the inbreds, right?
In the inbreds, yeah.
Right. Okay, so this is kind of more of the old Milo type. So what do we have? What do we have here?
Well, this one looks similar in a lot of ways, but it's from a very different part of the world. This is from northern China, and this is a good example of where we're going for cold tolerance. You can see it looks very unusual. So we have a lot of work to do to get the cold tolerance genes from varieties like this into the U.S. Inbreds and onto the seed companies. But we're applying a lot of new tools, the same type of tools that are revolutionizing medicine with personalized genomics are giving us a genetic fingerprint for cold tolerance in these Chinese lines.
Okay, so that'll speed up the process of extracting those genes, basically.
Exactly. The breeding cycle takes many years, and with these new genomic technologies, we hope we can shave off a number of years from going from the diverse lines from around the world into the farmer's field.
Okay. Now, cold tolerance, I mean, that's one of the big issues we have with sorghum, why we plant it after all the other crops, right? Yeah. Because of that. Jeff, I've got some more questions for you, and you've got some more things to show us here, so don't go away. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Now another gardening tip with Annette Jackson.
Fall is a great time to plant trees, shrubs, and perennials. Root development this fall means more growth with less watering next year. For faster root growth, always use Fertilome Root Stimulator. It is the only stimulator which contains IBA rooting hormone. Use Fertilome tree and shrub food after the plant has been planted for a month.
Save 25% now on Jackson's homegrown hardy perennials. Let Jackson's friendly staff help you select the best plants for your landscape.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and with us we have Jeff Morris, our geneticist on sorghum. And Jeff, I want to thank you for being on the show, but also not running off during the break, because a lot of my guests run off during the break. Okay, so I appreciate that. Hey, this is an interesting looking sorghum, so tell us a little bit about this one.
Yeah, one of the really exciting new things for sorghum growers in the last few years is the explosion in the specialty grains market, the health food market.
Oh, more of a niche
sorghum.
market. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with that niche market. And a big part of that is these pigmented sorghums. Sorghums come in all colors of the rainbow, and consumers are really excited to find new healthy foods. Mm-hmm. And so these type of sorghums with purple, red, brown pigmentation are showing up in our grocery stores in the cereals, pastas, and granola bars. And so this is an exciting new market for sorghum farmers.
Okay, so what's special about this one?
Yeah, this one has high levels of a healthy compound called anthocyanins.
Right.
This is the thing that you might see on the blueberry package saying buy these fruits so you get
high antioxidants.
High antioxidants.
Right.
It turns out sorghum is a great source, one of the best sources of these antioxidants.
Right. Now, that's really interesting. So we have, does color make the difference? I mean, so in a cream, would you have high antioxidants?
You might. Most of the high antioxidant varieties are these highly pigmented, colorful ones. Mm-hmm. But there's also pigments underneath the outer seed coat. Mm-hmm. And so tannin sorghums is not something we've seen in Kansas for a long time, but those are coming back as a part of this health food market.
Right. Now I know you've got, let me grab this one right here.
Yeah.
Now this one, this one doesn't look too good to me. I mean, a lot of farmers will recognize this as shatter cane. So why do you have this here?
Yeah, not only is this shatter cane, this is shatter cane that came all the way across the world from Botswana. Uh-huh. So we have plenty of shatter cane here in Kansas.
Why import anymore?
And this really highlights how we can get really valuable traits from the most unlikely of sources. One of the recent successes at K-State has been the release of new herbicide tolerance
in sorghum.
In sorghum, and these weedy sorghums are one of the places that we go to find new sources of herbicide tolerance. They manage to live all over the world without any help from us. Yeah. That means they are very tough plants that can have useful traits that we can extract using genetics and breeding.
Right. So this one could lead to some herbicide resistance, or maybe some insect resistance, or disease, or heat or drought stress
resistance.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And our job in the genetics program is to go through thousands and thousands of lines that are available from the world, sift through them, and find those nuggets of gold that are trapped inside them.
Okay. Jeff, I really appreciate you talking to us about the different sorghum types. That's always fascinated me.
Thank you.
Folks, we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Heinen Brothers, a fourth-generation Northeast Kansas farm family, knows how tough farming can be. Farmers helping farmers. Heinen Brothers Ag, selling and servicing crop protection products, fertilizer, anhydrous ammonia, cover crops, quality aerial and ground application. Call today to learn about our extended term financing program. 800-760-4964. HeinenBrothersAg.com.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and with us we have Dr. Tesfaye Tesso, our sorghum breeder here at K-State. And Tesfaye, we heard from Jeff Morris just a little bit ago talking about the sources, where drought tolerant comes from, Somalia, and cold tolerance from China. Tell us about your sorghum program, your breeding program, and how you use those sources from around the world.
Yeah, those two traits that Jeff mentioned are two of the several traits we are taking as priority to improve sorghum here: cold tolerance, drought tolerance, enhancing yield potential, and also developing resistance-based weed control through herbicide resistance are some of the major goals of our program. Yeah. With regard to the two particular traits, for cold tolerance, scientists have already identified that cold places where sorghum is growing, like China, were potentially the most promising areas to go and explore. So people went there several years ago and then brought a lot of materials, and then they found out 20 years ago that Chinese materials were much, much superior in terms of emergence as well as seedling vigor under cold temperature conditions.
Right.
So they started using those inbreeding programs, but it turned out that all of these Chinese materials have high tannin content in them that reduces protein availability and as a feedlot as well as for food source.
In the rumen you're talking about, when the cattle are eating it, the tannins
exactly. The tannin binds with the protein, so the protein doesn't become available to the animals.
Okay.
So that was a drawback with that one, and then that was dropped. What we started working on recently is that we tried to look at sorghums from Ethiopian highlands, for example, that is cold, and we tried to see if there is anything that is of good cold tolerance source there, and then that effort is going on. But in the meantime, there is a mutation breeding work that was going on, and then the mutant population that was derived from TX623, some of them were found to be tolerant to cold temperature. We brought and tested them in our field for a couple of seasons, and then we found about 2 of them to be really very good. We included those into our breeding programs.
Because those probably don't look too good, do they?
They do good, much better than what we have. So we tested them under cold temperature conditions. I was sharing that result. I have a couple of slides over there actually. So they look promising. But I am very optimistic that there is maybe much better sources that are out there, but what is needed is to spend the time and the energy on them and explore these different sources.
What about heat and drought?
With regard, we don't focus much on heat, but on drought, again, the major drought tolerance sources that we use in breeding program today come from East Africa, Ethiopia and Sudan.
Right. Tesfaye, I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us about the program.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be talking to you again soon.
Okay.
Folks, thank you for being with us today. And don't forget, this time next Friday, we're going to have another issue of That's My Farm.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.